All right, welcome everybody. We're going to give everyone a few minutes to join here before we get started. All right. All right, well, welcome everybody to Video Vision 2024. This annual webinar is hosted by Miles Partnership and explores the latest trends and best practices in video. I am your host, Emily DeLong. I'm a senior video creative producer with Odyssey Studios. And Odyssey, if you are unfamiliar with them, they're the content studio that oversees and executes a wide variety of projects on behalf of our clients, from online content all the way up to original programming and more. I myself am a Miles lifer. I've been with the company for going on 17 years and counting. And I know what you're thinking. I must have started here as an infant, and you are correct. Just kidding. This afternoon, have the pleasure of sharing this virtual stage with a very talented, very smart group of video professionals. We'll hear from Amal Rana, creative business partner for Google. We also have a wonderful panel of industry experts, including influencer and creative director Aman Focus, marketing specialist for Destination DC, Laura Calhoun, and executive creative director for New York City Tourism, Alon Cole. And today's presentation is really chock full of industry trends and insights, including what's shaking in video in 2024, YouTube for travel, and culminating with our panel discussion. Feel free to leverage the Q&A to send through any questions, and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. But first, let's get up to speed on everything that's been happening in 2023 in video since last we spoke. If you recall, last year's Video Vision webinar was centered all around vertical content's massive shakeup in the world of online video. We talked about trends and best practices, and to the surprise of probably no one, short-form vertical content continues to be a strong performer in the world of online video. And not to give too much away, but there's a relative newcomer to the vertical content game who's quickly rising to the top ranks as a go-to resource for travel inspiration and planning. Care to place bets? We've got a few slides before that tea is spilled. So in 2023, Google trapped Miles partnership to organize and support a cohort with the objective to study and test vertical video best practices. We thank the 15 VMOs that participated in the cohort, from which we were able to extrapolate data on performance and contrast that with analytics pulled from other major video platforms. While we presented on those findings in Q4 of 2023, in case you missed it, we will present a few of our top findings from that analysis. We found that videos featuring nature perform best overall, with culinary and storytelling featuring people performing very close behind. Unlike some of its rival platforms, viral music doesn't usually outperform open source music. Diverse shot selection and fast-paced editing drove greater reach and engagement. Voiceovers kept people's attention. And posting frequency matters. The more the DMO would post, the higher the number of views and overall engagements would be, suggesting that the algorithm rewards regular posting cadence. And if those short insights have piqued your interest, keep an eye out for a forthcoming article that will be put out very shortly after this webinar. And hot off the presses, just in time for this presentation, our friends at Future Partners have provided us with some breaking news surrounding video content. And for context, this data represents a monthly tracking study of demographically and geographically representative group of American adult travelers. There's over 4,000 unique surveys collected monthly. The surveys are multifaceted and aimed at addressing a diverse set of traveler opinions, preferences, awarenesses, brand usages, and behaviors. These findings reflect data that was collected in April of 2024 and have a confidence interval of about 1.6%, give or take. And in the past year, half of millennials and Gen Z travelers have used online video to plan travel, as compared to 33% of Gen X and 20% for the boomer population. And drum roll, please. YouTube Shorts is the most commonly used short-form video platform for travel planning in the past year, coming in at 21.3%, with Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok coming in about a solid 5 percentage points below. Talk about an upset. Short form video platform preferences vary significantly by generation, with millennials preferring IG Reels, while Gen Z largely prefers TikTok. I'll give that slide a moment to load. And which brings us to the world we live in now. These subsequent slides are just a taste of a forthcoming white paper originated by my colleague, Jordan Woolman, VP of Brand within Odyssey Studios. Keep an eye out for the release of this deep dive into content marketing. So, shifting gears away from short form vertical content and getting back in touch with an old favorite, entertainment first content. But first, more specifically, the importance of entertainment first branded content and why, as travel marketers, you should be aware of this burgeoning trend within our industry and beyond. But let's get to the roots of where this shift is coming from. It's 2024, and ad blockers are fairly commonplace and so desirable that subscribers are even willing to pay a premium for an adless viewing experience. It is harder than ever to create interruption by the use of traditional media advertisements alone. And as a result, we're seeing marketers shifting marketing dollars away from traditional ad channels and redirecting that investment into a more content centric marketing approach, a shift that coincides with an emphasis on developing an audience that engages with your content as opposed to strictly looking to get as many viewers as possible. And ultimately, this shift may prove to be pivotal for marketers. Whereas ads have proven to be of little value in garnering engagement out of viewers, branded content has proven to be significantly engaging, according to Forbes, by as much as 22 times more engaging than traditional display ads. And there's a lot of data to support just how effective branded content video can be for destination marketing. 75% of travelers rely on social media for travel inspiration. 40% of Gen Z search YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram before using Google. YouTube remains the number 2 search engine built on the number 1 search engine, but it isn't just about slapping a logo on your traditional video content. Remember, we're talking about building an audience. We're talking about creating content that's entertainment driven, content people are eager to watch and binge. And there's plenty of support for that directive, what with 78% of users ultimately seeking funny or entertaining content. Furthermore, content grounded in storytelling can boost conversion rates by as much as 30%. Prioritizing entertainment is just one of the big reasons why influencer content tends to outperform DMO content. In a recent study performed by us at Miles Partnership, in which we reviewed stats from the highest performing DMO content on YouTube versus the highest performing influencer content, the influencer content by and large outperformed. And while there are many factors that point to why, a big one is that influencers prioritize a good story and prioritize entertaining their audience with that content. It's non-transactional. There's no hard sell, there's no call to action. And a side note, if that analysis is of interest to you, there's another article coming out about that as well. If you listened to our presentation last year on vertical vision, which again was centered around short form vertical content, and you took our advice, great. As showcased earlier in the presentation, vertical content continues to be an important cornerstone within the shift to a more content centric marketing approach. But as seen here, with almost half of travelers on TikTok ultimately being influenced to travel to a destination based on that content. But I'm challenging you to think beyond short form vertical, maybe even revisit the OG, the original and still classic YouTube. Longer format content has a place within your content centric marketing strategy, and YouTube should absolutely be at the center of that and not just your oft neglected repository for videos. I know who you are, you know who you are, not going to name names. In this endeavor to build an audience, there's a certain degree of top of funnels marketing that comes along with it. As viewers are seeking out entertainment and inspiration while they're dreaming or exploratory phase um, of travel planning, they're ultimately developing an affinity for certain brands or destinations in the process. And that's all non-transactional. That kind of non-transactional content is powerful stuff because it ultimately builds trust in your brand. A couple of quick case studies on the subject. We can't talk about entertainment first branded content without talking about probably the biggest example of that to happen to date, Barbie. But did it work? Yes, to the tune of $125 million lift in Q4 of 2023. And in fact, it was so successful that Mattel has been quoted as saying they're transforming away from an investment perspective into a high performing IP. They're even creating their own in house studio to double down on an entertainment first marketing approach, with other movies featuring their beloved toys coming soon to a theater near you. But hitting a little closer to home, the advent of, sorry, the slides are a little slow in transitioning here. So hitting a little closer, ooh, and I skipped ahead, but that's all right. Hitting a little closer to home, the advent of set jetting, where travelers plan to see a destination after they've seen it in a TV show or a movie. Breaking Bad is just one of many examples of set jetting, and even though I think relying on a show about meth might be a bit of a risky marketing strategy, for the state of New Mexico, it ultimately helped the state rake in over 70 million in tourism revenue. But whether it's Breaking Bad or Yellowstone or White Lotus, shows whose settings play their own kind of pivotal character inspire visitation. Wait for it, wait for it. And yes, even here at Odyssey Studios, we practice what we preach. Our own scripted entertainment first series, Life's Rewards, had its own impact on the destination it featured. The first season of the show took place at St. Pete Beach's iconic Don Cesar Hotel and wound up offering a Life's Reward vacation package that resulted in over $300,000 in revenue. And while this shift may be new to some of you and may not be to others, we're not suggesting that you need a Hollywood level budget in order to create compelling content that's entertainment first for your own brand. And here to provide some practical insights and tips to crawl, walk, run your way into an entertainment first, content centric marketing strategy, I'm pleased to introduce our next speaker. Amal Rana is a creative business partner at Google based in New York City. In his role, he partners with the largest travel advertisers on YouTube, helping them create highly effective ads and content for the platform. Prior to joining Google, Amal was VP of Brand Activation at Gray New York, leading integrated marketing campaigns for some of the world's biggest brands. Amal hails from Dallas, Texas, where he spent 6 seasons leading sponsorship marketing and in-game production for the Dallas Mavericks. Welcome, Amal.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. So I'm so excited to talk about YouTube for travel because this is what I do all day, but I love speaking to new audiences, and I'm really excited to kind of get some of this stuff out in front of you all. So I'm sure everybody is familiar with YouTube. You've probably been sent a viral video. You probably watch it on your TV or your mobile phone or some other device. But the great thing about YouTube is that it is everywhere. It is a large platform. In fact, we are the world's largest video platform. And I'm feeling, there we go. And no matter who you are, what audience you're in, your age, your demographics, your lifestyle, you're probably watching YouTube, right? And we are a platform built on creators. And as we've already talked about today, creators are really the lifeblood of video online. And what I want everybody to think about today is you too can be a creator. You can act like a creator, and you don't necessarily have to partner with these large creators to have really effective and compelling content on the platform. YouTube, right, as I mentioned, is kind of everywhere. We have Shorts, which you're really familiar with. I know last year's webinar kind of focused on vertical and Shorts, and we just heard a lot of great data coming out of YouTube Shorts. There's also podcast and music. There's a lot of long form content. And then where I watch YouTube today mostly is on my TV, right? And it's funny because even though I work in the travel space and I consult brands that are in the travel world, I use it a lot personally as well. I'm currently planning a big trip to Southeast Asia, bucket list trip, and I find myself going really deep on content on the platform, looking at content from DMOs, from marketing organizations, from creators, from hotels, from all sorts of people, and really understanding where to go, how to get there, and what the top places are to see. And so I want you all to keep that in mind as we go through the next few slides. What's really great is while we're a huge platform, we're really, really big when it comes to travel. We're the epicenter of travel edutainment. We talked a lot about content should be entertaining. In the lifeblood of YouTube with creators is that they can really bring entertainment to life in a really educational way, right? So something we call edutainment, which you've probably heard of, But and this is actually an outdated stat, so I'm sure it's more than this. This is a couple of years old. 6 billion views of travel related content over the past year. This was a 2022 stat, I believe. So this has certainly grown. That's a lot of views on travel content. And we've heard this too, right? We already talked about this a little bit earlier, but YouTube is the second only to Google search as the destination for travel research. So you see here, right? 81% of YouTube users agree that it helps bring the experience to life in other way platforms can't. And that is because we are fully immersive. So people are going deep, they're going broad, and they're really coming to learn about destinations, about different brands, about the journey on how to get there, and all the things that go with that. So it is a place where you should be investing time and efforts around building your content strategy out. So this slide is a little bit of an eyesore, and I'm not going to play these videos. What I wanted to show you all, and this may look very different than the types of content that you're producing as DMOs or travel brands. This is the type of content people watch, right? It feels very digital first. Some of it's high production, some of it's low production. But what you'll see, and what we'll talk about a lot today, is that there's some very clear trends that our travel creators are leaning into, and something that all of you can emulate. You have do's and don'ts. You have POVs. So a lot of these you see in theme parks or walkthroughs. I have a couple of good examples to show you where it's literally just like you put a camera on the front of a boat, on the front of a roller coaster, on the front of a car, and you drive around or you walk around, and people watch that stuff. There's listicles and hacks, and there's day in the life. So this is the type of content I want you all to think about as you're building out your strategy. And as I mentioned, YouTube is a place that is fully immersive, right? And only on YouTube can you take somebody there before they go there, right? We talk a lot about go there before you go there. This is a way to get people really engaged in your destinations in a way they can't on other platforms. Okay, so that's just kind of the setup. So when we think about trends, right, the word trend means a lot of things to a lot of different peoples. And I think with the explosion of TikTok and over the years, Twitter's been around for a while, or X now, or Instagram, we have things that happen in real time, right? Real time trends, right? There's memes, there's things like that. And those are all still considered trends. But when we talk about trends on YouTube, we like to talk about things that have been around for a long time and that what we call tried and true long-term trends. You can call them video formats or content pillars. But if you picked any video on YouTube, they could probably fit into one of these 8 buckets: listicles, explainers, right? There's a lot of explainer content, how it works, things like that. Commentary, where people are commenting on things, interviews, challenges, reactions, narrative music. Everything can probably fit into at least one of these buckets. These are tried and true. Where the magic really happens is when you start kind of combining these, and we call these hybrids. So if you're familiar, my favorite example to talk about is the show Hot Ones. If you're familiar with that show, it's gotten really big. If you're not familiar, it's a show where celebrities are interviewed while eating increasingly hotter and hotter hot wings. In what might appear to be just an interview, it's actually an interview with a challenge mixed in with a reaction, right? And the goal of that show isn't really about eating hot wings. It's about breaking down kind of those walls and getting celebrities to talk about things they normally don't share in other types of interviews. So that's a great example of what we call a hybrid format. And that's where a lot of great things really happen. When we bring it down to travel, there's a lot of formats out there, but there's kind of like 3 main ones that we can focus in around. There's explainers. A lot of big brands are using this, and small brands. And this is where we can like demystify complex topics. The trip that I'm talking about is going into Thailand, and I'm actually looking at a bunch of explainer videos on local travel. Like, how do I get from point A to point B in the middle of nowhere, right? And so people are explaining how to do this in a really easy way. Listicles, this is exactly what it sounds like. Top 10, top 100. I have a great example to show you next. And challenges, this is a really ripe opportunity for all of you to kind of embrace acting like creators, right? I have $100 to spend in Chicago this weekend. What am I going to do? And then take them for the journey. So getting into it, so listicles, I want to show you a couple of different examples today. And what I want to show you is high production, low production, people in the video, people not in the video, creators, etc., just to give you a taste for the different types of content you can build. All of them are effective, right? The key thing to remember when you're going into your content strategy is who your audience is, what are they watching, and what's going to keep them engaged, right? Think less like a TV advertiser, more like a digital first advertiser. And I promise it's a lot easier than it looks. And I'll show you some examples on where you can get started today versus something that's a little bit higher production like this. So this is one of my favorite creators, and I'm going to play a few seconds of his one of his videos. And this is a very popular listicle format on the platform, and this is how he approaches it.
What's up, guys? My name is Ryan, and I've spent most of my life living in the United States, and I want to show you my favorite places. So here's my USA Top 25. The US is an incredible country, from the beautiful Hawaiian Islands to the wild rock formations of the Southwest. Each part of the US has something unique to offer that deserves a visit. Let's start this video off at beautiful Lake Tahoe. I have to say that it's my favorite lake in the USA.
So you see, it's very high production. This guy clearly knows how to use a camera. He has drones. He has high fidelity cameras. And what's great about his content is that it's very compelling, it's very beautiful, and it looks great just to watch, even if you're not thinking about traveling. The effective parts of his content that I want to call out are that he sets up the video with top 25 USA loud and clear. He gets right into it, and then he goes through the 25 destinations very kind of methodically, right? Everything has a label, you clearly know where you're going, and he uses kind of in YouTube, you can put out different chapters within your video. He's utilizing those features as well. So that's what I would consider like very high production, probably take a lot of time. You may need to partner with a production agency to do that. But then you can also go a little bit lower fi. So this next example I'm going to show you is what I would call more of a vlogger style. You'll see it's somebody with a camera. A lot of times people do this with their own camera, and it just feels a little bit more quicker paced and a little bit easier to produce. So I'm going to play a few seconds of this piece of content.
New York City was recently given the title of the world's most expensive city. So, is it possible to live or visit here for free? It turns out there are secret ways to do so, including this one for $0. So let's get into it. To make this video a little...
So still a listicle, totally different style and approach, but still really effective. And by the way, it is not possible to live in New York for free. I'll tell you that. It's very hard to get anything for free. So I'll watch her whole video just to see, get some tips from her. Okay, moving into some inspiration. So we talked about formats and we talked about different ways to kind of approach. What I want to show you now is what are some things that are really popular within the travel space audience that may not directly be related to travel, right? And so, yes, we should be talking about destinations. We should be showing destinations, nature. We heard earlier that that's kind of the top performing type of footage and using video and all that stuff. But there's other things to look into to build out your content strategy, right? When we look inside some of our travel trends, we see that with the travel audience, home tours are also really, really popular. And so this is something that you all can embrace, whether it's showing different hotels, different vacation rentals, different museums. Embrace kind of that notion of home tours. And I'm going to show you two examples. One, it's probably one of my favorite series on all of YouTube, is the Open Door series from Arc Digest. And here's a few seconds from RuPaul's version of it a few months ago.
Hello, AD. I'm RuPaul, and welcome to our crib.
So imagine taking somebody through a museum where you're giving them behind the scenes, showing them where they should go. It doesn't have to be just a home or a hotel. Pivoting over to YouTube Shorts, something that's a little bit quicker to produce. You can make this on your phone. Here's a very different version of it, of somebody touring the Ice Hotel in Sweden.
Want to check out our room at the Ice Hotel?
Yes.
Come on! Every year in the far north of Sweden, the Ice Hotel Resort builds a giant structure made completely out of ice and snow.
Oh.
Filled with beautiful ice sculptures and also beds, because yes, these are hotel rooms, and yes, guests sleep here over.
You can literally go and create that on your phone in 30 minutes. And I encourage you to do that if you haven't experimented with YouTube Shorts. Go ahead and try it. If you don't love it, you don't have to post it, but everybody can be a creator. Okay. Music is also really big with your audience. And there's two types of music or audio categories that I'm going to call out here. The first one is lo-fi music. You might have heard about lo-fi music. It's really chill music with typically with the beat. and it's accompanied by really striking visuals, right? So I'll show you an example from a big creator on the platform. Another is this whole notion of ambience. So there's ambience room, ambient scenes, and this is just generally a very static with little movement, beautiful scene, and you have either jazz music or just ASMR sounds. And think about putting your brand or your destination front and center, leaning into this trend. So here's an ambience beach, I would say, and it's literally just so that goes on for 20 hours, right? So just think about people put this on their TV and kind of sit back. So imagine if this was the Space Needle in Seattle or Puget Sound, like that would be beautiful. Another way to do it is through lo-fi, right? So this next example comes from Lo-Fi Girl, which is the biggest kind of lo-fi creator on the platform. And imagine if you're looking at animation that kind of brings your destination to life with a very similar vibe, but just slightly different. And again, these go on for hours and hours and hours. You could have the same 10-second loop of footage, license music, create your own music with AI. Oh, there's a lot of different ways to do that. Okay, explore with me. This is another huge thing that's happening within the travel space specifically. And there's two ways that we're really seeing this come along. One is walking tours. So we talked about earlier, kind of that POV. This is a version of that. And people are posting, these are creators on the platform. And I've even seen some brands do it where they're literally posting walkthroughs of entire cities. Okay. That goes on for 4 hours, right? So really easy to do in terms of production. You really just need one camera and you just walk. People watch this stuff, they eat it up, and they immerse themselves. And then the last example here is in the version of a short. It's a YouTube Shorts. It's about hidden streets in London.
Things in London nobody tells you. The Hidden Streets edition. Cecil Court near Covent Garden is full of old bookshops and Victorian shopfronts. Shepherd Market is an 18th century square in Mayfair with pubs and restaurants.
Really cool stuff. And then lastly, food. We all know that food is a huge draw when it comes to travel. People are looking at the best places to eat, hole in the walls, how to hack a line, all of those things. A really fun way to bring this to life is through a challenge, right? You can either partner with the creator, get somebody local, or do it yourself. In this guy, I'm not going to play this video in the interest of time, but it's essentially he eats everything on a menu at this restaurant and he records it, and it's really, really fun. This is what I would call high production value. But just to contrast it, what I want to show you is because a lot of these, if I can find the mouse, here we go.
I'm taking on over 12,000 calories.
I'm going to skip that one because we're a little bit short on time. You could also just go very lo-fi, right? So this person is a vlogger.
That's really good. It's spicy.
She's reviewing street food in Mexico that has hundreds of thousands of views, and it is just so easy to produce. Okay, really quickly, YouTube Shorts 101. So this is where I think a lot of you, if you haven't had a lot of experience building video or a lot of experience producing content for YouTube, what I think you can do is get started today with YouTube Shorts. And I know you've already talked about Shorts before, but just like a quick 101, and then we'll open it up for questions, right? What is Shorts? I think you're all familiar with this, so I can skip it, but it's essentially a social first vertical video experience on YouTube. And there's a lot of creation tools within YouTube Shorts. So this is what I encourage you all to do is open up your YouTube app on your mobile phone, shoot some content, edit it right in the app and get it out there. And if you're not ready for that just yet, take your existing content and modify it for YouTube Shorts, right? Tactic one, fill in the gaps, use your existing horizontal content and kind of fill in the gaps on top and below with some of your messaging. You can repurpose your social assets. So if you have stuff on TikTok or stuff on Reels, that stuff will work beautifully on YouTube. Get it out there. As it was mentioned earlier, volume and timing and release of content is really important in the algorithm. So get it out there. But you'll see a couple of other tactics here as well. and it's a really easy place to get started. So I hope that this was a little bit inspirational for you all. Remember, you don't have to be the biggest creator on the platform or even a small creator. We're all creators, and the key is to think like a creator that's making really popular content on the platform, and really embrace that when it comes to your strategy.
Awesome. Thank you, Amal. We're going to fix the little technical difficulty with the Q&A and chat, but we're going to open the floor to questions for Amal in a moment. Apologies for the technical difficulties. And Jenny in the background, let me know when we're fixed on your side. All right, so chat is now enabled. And a couple of questions coming through in chat. Yes, all of the materials that are shared in this presentation, along with some supplemental articles, will be shared after the presentation and available on our website. Amal, any advice for museums?
Yes, love museums. I will say from personal advice, one thing is some museums, especially larger ones, can be really hard to navigate. So any like tips that you can provide to your viewers on like where to start or bring in like different personalities, docents, people that work at the museum, like what their favorite pieces are. Like those are all things I think people are looking for ways to kind of optimize their time when they're on vacation or even on a staycation. The other thing is you can look, if you just go into Google search, you're all familiar with auto suggest. When you start typing something in, it'll finish the query for you. Just type in like museum or like what to do at a museum and see like what it auto populates with, and that'll give you a hint of what the types of things people are searching for around museums. So anything that makes it easier and helpful is a type of content for museums or for any brand in general.
Next question. This one comes from Emily, and I love where her head is at, thinking about releases and permissions. So for the Explore with Us style videos, the passerbyers, do you need consent from them to be present in the video?
That is a really good question. So I can only answer this on behalf of like when I work with advertisers like these big brands, right? We talk to them about making sure they typically have rules on their end um, for these permissions and releases because they are subject to any kind of liability, right? When it comes to the marketing, and if you might be in the background. Creators, I'm not so sure. I don't think they are. And I think some of you might fall in the middle of the road there a little bit, especially with some of this organic strategy stuff. So I can't answer that question with any type of confidence. But that is a good question. And I'm pretty sure that if you just Google it and find yourself on the YouTube like page where it has some of these questions answered, you might be able to find it in there. But apologies that I'm not able to answer that specifically.
I can say from the perspective of the studio, we always prefer to cover ourselves as much as possible. So get releases where you can. And in addition, avoid getting children in the background, especially if you don't think you can get their releases, because I think that opens a whole Pandora's box of possible issues. We've got another question here about what are good analytics to look at to measure the success of video. I love this one.
Yeah, great question. So if you have a YouTube channel, you'll have access to the backend analytics, right? So you go into YouTube Studio, that's where you're creating on the back end of your account. And you should be looking at both your channel and video analytics to get a sense of a lot of different things, right? The things that I look at is let's say you post a 10-minute video. One really important thing to look at is retention curves. So you can see where people are dropping off in your video or rewinding. And you can start getting clues. Like, I wonder why they're dropping off. Is it because I started talking about something that didn't make sense? Is it because the video cut out and they thought the video ended? Why are they rewinding? Did they really like this cute puppy dog? That often is the answer. Why? It's usually like a cute animal or a cute baby. Or is there something really interesting happening with the food that I'm eating? And so that's a really good way to look at it. I would also look at where your viewers are coming from. Are they coming from the YouTube search page? Are they coming from like suggested videos? I would also look at your audience data and start looking at who your audience is. And then lastly, this isn't really analytics, but it's more about look at the comments. What are people saying in the comments? the best creators are engaging with their fans in the comments and are also taking their advice, right? A lot of times somebody might be like, hey, going back to the museum example, I really want to learn about the Mona Lisa. Maybe then somebody does an explainer video on the Mona Lisa. Is the Louvre on, by the way? Those are just some easy ways to look at it.
Awesome. Do you think there is a certain number of videos we should post per week? What would be your recommendation?
Yeah, so this is tough, right? Because this, I think your analytics will tell you. Um, but I would say shorts more often, long form main video, um, you know, at least once a week once you are up and running. If you're like more of a mature video producer or video content engine, I wouldn't go like months without posting anything. But again, it always depends on your objective, your budget, what you're trying to do. What I always recommend is there's a lot of creator academy type of content on YouTube. Go into YouTube search, type that in, and figure out what other creators are doing. Creators love sharing tips, and these are some of the tips that they like talking about.
Awesome. All right. What is the best way to market YouTube videos and create buzz?
Relevancy. So understand your audience, your organizations, right? The destinations that you represent. The way to create buzz is knowing your audience, knowing your brand, and then understanding trends. So what are those eight trends we talked about, looking at those, and then also some of those real-time trends and just trying to tap in to what's happening culturally in a way that makes sense for your organization.
Awesome. I think that rounds out the questions. I think we're going to move on to our next part of the presentation here. But again, now that we have our technical issues fixed and resolved, feel free to leverage either chat or the Q&A to post your questions. And again, thank you so much, Amal. There's a lot of great learnings to be had there for sure. All right, so we are now going to move into our panel discussion where we'll talk about content creation in the current video landscape. First introduction, Laura Calhoun is Destination DC's marketing specialist managing their domestic content creator strategy. She has executed more than 30 paid influencer partnerships in her year at Destination DC, which have earned over 300,000 social media engagements and over 4 million impressions. Welcome, Laura. And Jenny, if we could get the slides back up for just a minute, Laura has supplied us with a couple of examples of the work that she has done for Destination DC that we'd like to share. And I'll let you run it because my mouse, for whatever reason, was real slow when I was running it.
Washington, D.C. is such an easy and affordable trip from New York City, especially since there are so many things to do for free. First, you need to plan to visit some museums. D.C. has an incredible museum scene and all of the Smithsonian museums are free. We went to the Portrait Gallery, the National History Museum, and the Hirshhorn, but there are over 20 free museums to check out. The National Zoo is also free to visit, and so is the U.S. Botanic Garden. You can also spend an entire afternoon exploring the National Mall and checking out all of the monuments. If you like wandering around a neighborhood, walk the streets of Georgetown. There are so many pretty houses, flowers, and great shopping. Union Market also has some delicious, affordable eats. Get to DC by a train or a bus for around $15 each way if you plan in advance. Highly recommend as a weekend trip from New York City.
Noted. Awesome. Thanks for those examples. Next in our panel, we have Aman Focus. He is a talented creative director, artist, and influencer specializing in experiential travel production, cultural narratives, and visual arts. As the creator and owner of New York Said Archive, Aman spent over a decade refining his craft, captivating audiences with imaginative storytelling and an interdisciplinary approach that captures the spirit of New York and beyond. He collaborates with prominent destination marketing organizations nationwide, including Marlowe's Partnership and Odyssey Studios, Brand USA, Travel Oregon, I Love New York, Louisiana Travel, Sweet Home Alabama, and San Francisco Travel. Through these partnerships, he plays a key role in developing engaging video content and campaigns that showcase the unique charm and allure of each location he visits, guiding viewers to experience that je ne sais quoi that makes each destination truly special. Shameless plug incoming. He's also one of the stars of Odyssey's newest original series called The Main Event, coming soon to YouTube and places.travel. If you're interested about how you can be involved in the series, feel free to hit me up. But we've got a trailer for you.
Mobile, Alabama, look, aloha.
Mardi Gras here is a different kind of Mardi Gras from what you hear, what you see about in other places. It's a community thing. It's a family thing.
These, I think, might be the dopest
I think you won with those.
I did.
What I learned in Mobile, especially during Mardi Gras, like there's so many ceremonial things that go on.
Happy Joe Game Day. This is the main event. It's happening today.
Looks like a great time. And last but certainly not least is Alon Cole. He is the executive creative director and co-lead for the award-winning creative content team at New York City Tourism. He's had the honor and pleasure of building stories, brand campaigns, and films that draw visitors from around the globe to the greatest city the world has ever known. A lifelong New Yorker, he's been helping the organization spread the benefits of NYC tourism's economy throughout all of its communities and neighborhoods since 2017. As a board member for NYC by Design, he's equally privileged to help the city maintain its current and future status as the design capital of the world. As a teacher, he's run brand workshops for students and emerging creatives at design schools and major universities alike. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. So, Laura, let's start with you. Could you share a little bit about creating content for Destination DC? What are you guys into? What's your storytelling strategy? What's really resonating with your audience?
So, as you saw from those examples, we've seen itinerary-based content performing really well with our influencer partnerships. So these are sort of day in my lifestyle videos that highlight experiences that visitors can replicate. And we're beginning to experiment with that same format in our organic content as well.
Awesome. And Alon, same question to you. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing over at New York City Tourism.
So we're continuing to build our video capability, and that's both long form and short form, 16:9 and 9:16 across all of our platforms. As we build this, as we sort of develop our integration model, we're finding certain things like, we can shoot these. I love the term high pro, low pro. We can shoot these high pro sort of long form videos, and these documentaries, which gain sort of a lot of visibility, and then surround them with parallel content that we can run through our social channels. So we're discovering as we go what it really means to have a video ecosystem. But aside from that, aside from all the technical rigor that we need to bring to it, our stories really come down to one thing, which is what does it mean to be in New York from the voices of New Yorkers. So the way that we look at it is we're not the voice of New York City, but we are the curators and the amplifiers of all the voices of New York City. And so what we look for are stories that are, I like to call it stories at eye level from all of the neighborhoods of the city, so that we can build up an attraction around the true nature and the true character. So that goes back to some of the things we were talking about earlier with Mal about authenticity and deeply, truly local stories, one-on-one stories. So this is more sort of philosophy, I think, that drives us through all the choices we make.
Excellent. And Aman, can you introduce your work and the projects you've collaborated on as a creative?
Thankfully, I got my start in like 2007 with one of the first DMO campaigns, which was Visit Florida, where they put us all into an RV and was like, figure it out. And we did. It was incredible. And I've just been around as it's evolved, working in over, I would say 35 states at this point, just wearing various hats, whether I'm behind the camera or in front of the camera. And now with this latest project, Main Event, how it's evolved from those early days to now, it's less scripted, and they're just prompting us and saying, okay, be yourself. What is your experience? And so I was allowed to be a New Yorker in Alabama and just make friends along the way. So it was a really cool experience.
Awesome. I mean, since you're bringing kind of a unique perspective to this panelist as a creator, let's jump right in. And can you share with us your top 5 tips for posting and creating like an influencer?
Top 5 things. The first thing, it's been said, Amal said it, it's know your audience. And know how they want to be talked to. And that's where you know, having a calendar and knowing exactly what you're going to do for, like, okay, we're going to talk to this demo and we're going to speak to them in the way they speak authentically, not just like all of a sudden using jargon out of the blue, like make it make sense. Developing your own voice, which for me, a good example of that is what NYC tourism does with local legends. Like I watched that, you know, the Queens one, I'm from Queens. So of course I'm gonna watch it with a, like an eye, like, yeah, does this make sense? And it does, you know, and it's Jackson Heights, it's food, it's, you know, but they're like having real conversations with people. One of the things that I remember, there was a restaurant they visited, it was called Angel Indian. And I'm paraphrasing, but the owner said something to the effect of like, if there's 24 hours in a day, I think about food 24. And he was just talking. And I was like, that's a place I want to go and eat. Because if you're thinking about food that much, then so am I. The third one is manage your energy. So if you're not going to be, you know, big production is huge, but if the camera's in your hand or if the camera's in front of you, manage your energy. Because if you don't care, then we probably are not going to care either. So like, you have to be authentically excited, and you do that through practice. Like when I first started getting on camera, I spent a lot of offline hours just getting uncomfortable, just staring in front of the camera, saying nothing. Once you get that out of the way and you keep doing it and doing it and doing it, that repetition will get you your voice and your energy. And then just get to the point. Like kind of like back in the days when you're in elementary school, don't write an essay that says, in this essay, I'm going to talk, just drop us in, you know, just get in and get out. And then the last thing is perfection is a trap. So if you're going to be a reoccurring creator, don't get caught up too deeply in how it looked. I mean, like the audio should be great and composition should be fine, but if you don't get it right, you have a second try, and no one's tripping about something that they're probably not going to be thinking about in the next 24 hours. So don't put so much pressure on yourself. Just get out of that perfectionism and just get it out there and keep going. So those are my 5 tips.
I'm feeling hyped. Those are some good tips, man. I appreciate it.
Go out there and make it happen. You got this.
I got this. All right. So to the whole panel, as you've begun growing your audiences, did you encounter any surprises along the way or any unexpected challenges? And how did you overcome those? And I open up to whoever has an answer first. Oh, Alon's got one. Got to come off mute.
Of course, there's going to be a mute incident, right? It wouldn't be Zoom without it. For us, I'm going to give a surprising one. So you think like we're New York City, we've got like these massive, crazy budgets. We don't. I would say that maybe DC has more budget than we do. Certainly many other cities do. We are very much, you know, almost like less than startup scrappy. So when we do these projects like Local Legends, for example, which thanks for calling out, and I really appreciate that we passed the test, the Queen's test. You know, we're doing that. We're working with people who really want to be there. We're part of what we do is we've begun to focus on the value of telling stories about New York City. So while we don't have the budget, you know, that a lot of cities do, we do have this kind of deep love and this deep understanding of what our brand is as a city. And so I think when we first started years and years ago doing these films, we would always go out with we would have a full crew and a sound package and a camera package and all that. And we also did social very differently. So now what our focus is bringing those two departments together and learning from each other. Like, how can we rely on the desire for people to tell their stories, rely on our own locals' love of the city that they live in and the desire to rep? How can we learn from, you know, things like, you know, it shouldn't be perfect, experiment in public and learn quickly from it. So for us, it's been, you know, the economics of doing videos that have deep, powerful stories without breaking the bank doing it. So.
Awesome. Very good advice that a
think,
lot of DMers appreciate.
One thing that I learned was that don't be afraid to ask. There are times where I've wanted to connect with notable people and I just shot out a quick, you know, 1 or 2 sentence email and got a yes, and they were with it. And so it's like nothing, especially when it comes to that, you know, that hometown love, like someone wants to connect with you on that level. So just don't be afraid to reach out to people. And I guess earlier we were talking about non-transactional content. Just reaching out to people just because and having those conversations. You'd be surprised that there are things that they may want to connect with you or collaborate with about. Like it could be a book, a movie, a film that, you know, again, serves that destination and location.
Yeah, never underestimate the power of the love that your neighbors have for your hometown. Like that's a huge thing as a destination.
Totally. Laura, what about you?
And not to flip to negativity here, but one of our biggest challenges lately has been a big uptick in negative comments on our account and our content, especially with content highlighting diversity, which is really important to us as a destination. We post a lot of UGC, user-generated content, and influencer collaborations with partners that we value. So it's really important to us that we stand up for what we believe in and don't let that negativity overtake the content. Especially being in the nation's capital, that generates a certain level of commenting, and we are prepared to manage that as we're moving into something like a presidential election year, for example. More recently, we have worked with our comms team and some of our influencer partners to develop a statement that we can post under our LGBTQ plus related content, which was generating a lot of negative commentary. We also have a really strict comment monitoring plan in place so that we, number one, show off our destination to the best of our ability and its values, and number two, protect and care for those partners that we value.
So let's talk about some of those partnerships. What have been your experiences working with influencers and creators? What's been your strategy going into that? And Laura, if you want to go for it.
Yeah, I can jump in. So we work with both local creators and creators from some of our top drive and fly markets. You saw an example from a New York City creator earlier. We make sure to select and vet them very carefully based on both things like engagement rate, content quality, and also to make sure that they align with our brand values that I mentioned earlier. We really see content creators as the experts in what they do and value their work, and see them as partners that are sort of an extension of our brand. They often become brand ambassadors for us long past, one single trip that they take to DC. So I think overall, letting them have creative freedom, providing as much information as we can up front, giving them an itinerary that guides them through the city, gives them experiences that, tell a story, and then letting them do what they're an expert in, speak to their audience, and utilize that to showcase a different perspective than our creative team can often capture.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would add on to that. I think you put it really well. For us, it really comes, we work with a variety of partners, really. And the criteria that we use is what is the match for our brand tone of voice, for our city's tone of voice. And that's been super important since it's only been about 1.5 years ago that we redid our brand strategy, we redid our brand, we came out with a new focus. And so for us, it's always going to be about open exploration. It's always going to be about welcoming. It's always going to be about, urging people to go deeper into the city and spend more when they're there. So it's based on, on our mission, really, which is we want to spread the benefits of the tourism economy to all of the neighborhoods, all of the boroughs. So if we're working with, for example, like Righteous Eats, that couldn't be a more local partner, right? And they're just amazing. And to your point as well, we just need to step back and let them do what they do, right? And so it really is in the vetting, in the match. It's kind of like any kind of creative collaboration. Like you want to work with people that you're really, really, amped up about doing things with, and you just want to see them sort of go, whether that's like a merchandise partnership or a film partnership or a social partnership. So, principles all apply.
Awesome. So, all right, one last question, really quick hit here, so we can leave a little room for Q&A. What do you guys think is the next big thing in video?
I think we're in it. There's so much happening right now. We got AI coming from every device, every software. Google was like, hey, it's in your Gmail. I was like, I didn't ask for that, but okay. So having the ability to have all these tools that become this mech suit for us to be battle storytelling, I just made that up. We have all these tools. So there really is no excuse to not get it out there and have the ability to tell a compelling story with less challenges as the year before, not to sound like an old head. But yeah, I think we're in that time where the innovation is coming every single day. I mean, on my LinkedIn, I'm always seeing some kind of new carousel of like, oh, I didn't know you could do that with Midjourney. So I think we're in it, but that's just me.
Yeah, I would agree. Like there's like these cycles where technological innovation just inundates a given, art form or expression form. I think what inevitably happens is the next big thing after all the next big things pile on is that it returns to craft. So it's always going to be about narrative. It's always going to be about the story. It's always going to be about, that sort of one-to-one human thing. So what will be interesting is, not so much the next big thing being a gadget or a thing, even though it's really cool to watch what, the gadgets and the things can start doing. It's going to be about how human beings get on top of that and then, sort of incorporate them naturally so that, what we're looking at isn't like storyboards of AI drawn, illustrations, which we know are AI drawn illustrations, but holy crap, how you told that story was unbelievable. You built a world that like, that made me believe in this storyline. And I had no idea that technology was a part of it.
Totally agree that we're
That
in it.
part,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know that I have anything to add. That was really well put.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, we're coming to the end of the webinar. We still have a little bit of time for some Q&A if there are any remaining questions, but yes, and yes, we will be sharing the deck. The recording will be made available as well for those who weren't able to make it. A couple of other sort of housekeeping items. Jenny, yep, there we go. Yeah, so everything will be made available, milespartnership.com/video-vision. But we will also be emailing it to participants. We also have another webinar coming up on June 18th, Technology Trends. You can sign up via the QR code or on our website as well. And global insights on vertical video. So this was that analytical data that I had shared earlier comparing top-rated DMO content against top-rated influencer content. That blog is now out in the universe. Go check it out. And I think that's all she wrote. Well, thank you guys so much. If there's any remaining questions, we're happy to answer them. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Amal. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Oh, Laura, how did you build your comment monitoring strategy?
So this is very much a work in progress. As we move forward, it sort of has iterations. We looked at how we can best hide words in Instagram, the words that were most commonly coming up, to be proactive. And then honestly, it's a lot of manpower. It's a lot of reading comments. We often read between the lines. Sometimes people can comment things that are a little tongue-in-cheek and come across negatively. And ultimately, because we want to protect our partners, we choose to delete or hide those comments. So manpower, proactive hiding, and then building and learning from each time that we post how we can get better the next time.
Awesome advice. Team, somebody recently commented, as a society, we have limited attention spans, fast scrolling through content, barely digesting it. Would you agree, or would you say you have seen data reflecting this in terms of destination video marketing? It's gonna be a hot topic. I got opinions on this one. I don't know about y'all.
We only got 4 minutes.
I know, but there's not nearly enough time.
I'm a doom scroller, so I don't know. I try not to be. I mean, it feels like nicotine. I'm like, I'm not gonna do it today, and then next thing I know, I'm lost in it, and then I gotta put on all kinds of various apps. But yeah, it's definitely a force to be reckoned with. I mean, that's what we're doing when we're gonna be creating it. Like, we're creating things for people to lose themselves in as well. So I mean, like, it's both sides of it. I can say like, hey, I shouldn't scroll so much, but I'm making stuff to assist in the scrolling. But it's a balance.
Yeah, as a TikTok addict, I can tell you that how many things I scroll through before something captures my attention. And it's always going to be in the initial presentation of the idea. And it's not that there's a formula for it. It's not like if you do this thing in the beginning, but it does. I will, this is kind of one of the super common knowledge, which is, hook them in the beginning. And then it's not even like a surefire thing. It just happens to be, oh, that's interesting to me today. Right. Or that's the thing that I was you know, with TikTok, you do a search, you start to finish particular videos, and it'll just start sending you all other kinds of related videos. So, you know, which then I'll watch more of them, I'll watch longer. So
I mean, if it's long content, it better be good. It better get me from the start, and it better be interesting is my thing. If you're demanding 10 minutes of my time, better be go time from the start of that content is all I'm saying. But it definitely has a place. All of it has a place in our content-centric marketing approach, right?
well, we're also on a
All right.
format. We're on a
Absolutely.
TikTok. The format is designed to be like quick hit, quick hit, quick hit. So if you're doing it however long, it's got to be really good.
Awesome. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions in the Q&A, and we're at time. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, speakers and panelists. Until next time. Bye.